Today we're going to learn to solve equations using addition and subtraction. In order to solve equations, we have to use inverse operations. The word inverse means opposite. Let's think about some opposites. The opposite of more would be less. The opposite of up is down. The opposite of subtraction is addition. The opposite of positive is negative. And this is the one that we're going to focus on today, adding and subtracting. They are opposites or inverses. So if we look at these, we're supposed to give the inverse of each operation. So the inverse of adding 15 would be subtracting 15. The inverse of subtracting 2, the inverse of subtract is add, so we would need to add 2. Inverses make each other cancel out. The opposite of adding negative 12 would be to subtract negative 12. And if I think about what subtracting a negative is, that's actually adding a positive. So adding positive 12 is the same as subtracting negative 12. And subtracting negative 5, its inverse would be to add negative 5. We don't change the sign of the number, we just change to the opposite operation. When we think about an equation is like having a balance. We don't want to tip our balance, so if I had an equation like x plus 5 equals 8, what that says is the value of this side is the same as the value on this side. And if I look at what it would look like if I put things actually on a balance, here's my x plus my 2 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I want to end up with just knowing what x is. So in order to have x by itself, I would have to take off 2. Now if I take off 2 from this side, in order to keep my balance from tipping, I have to remove 2 from this side, which would leave me x equaling 5. To show that I removed something, I would use subtraction. And if I look at what I have left, I don't have this 2 anymore because these were inverses. Positive 2 minus 2 cancels out. So I would have left an x equaling positive 5. Let's look at another one. Right here I have x plus 5 equals 9. So here's my x plus 5 equals 9. I want just the x by itself, so I would have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I take 5 away from that side, I have to do the same thing over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm left with x equaling 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I want to show that, I subtract 5 from both sides. And that leaves me with x equaling 4, right, which is what I had here, x equals 4. All right, let's try to do some without a balance. So here I always find my variable because my goal on each one of these is to isolate the variable or get my variable by itself. So here's my x, and with my x I have a plus 8. So the inverse of addition is subtraction, and if I subtract 8 from this side, I have to subtract 8 from the other side as well because this is my balance point. If I look at it like this is my balance, all right, on this side my positive 8 and my negative 8 are going to cancel out. So on the left side of my equation, or my equal sign, I have just the x, and over here 2 minus 8 would be negative 6. If I go back to my original equation, I can check it. Negative 6 plus 8 does in fact equal 2. So I can guarantee that I have the right answer if I take the time to check it. On this one, my variable's on the right. Doesn't matter which side it's on, but my variable's over here on the right hand side, and it has with it a plus 6. So the inverse of plus 6 is minus 6. And if I subtract that from one side to keep my balance from tipping, I have to subtract it from the other side as well. So negative 5 minus 6. Right, my signs are alike, so I add those values and I keep the sign. and I have negative 11 equals x. So over here, my 6's canceled out. All right, if we try a couple more, here's my variable on the right. It has a plus 4. So to get rid of the plus 4, because remember I want to isolate my variable and get w by itself, I would subtract 4. And when I show it, when I write down my equation, I have to actually show, because each one of these lines has to be equal. All right, so I have to show what I'm doing in order to change my equation. So 15 minus 4, I do this as a subtraction problem up and down, it equals w, because 4 minus 4 is 0. So I just have the w left. And if I check it, 11 plus 4 does make 15. All right, over here, my variable's over here on the right. And with it, I have a negative 7. This time my constant value is first and my variable is second. But I have to look at the number itself. I have a negative 7. Right? To get rid of a negative 7, I would need to add 7. So even though this said plus, what I'm really doing is subtracting negative 7. When I subtract negative 7, that's the same as adding 7. So that leaves me 2, and this was going to cancel out, and I have left an x. We can do the same thing when we subtract, right? The only difference is, undoing subtraction, we have to add. So here's my variable on the left. I have with it a minus 8. So the inverse of minus is plus. So I add 8 to both sides. And over here I have an x, I have an equals, and I have a 14. So x equals 14. If I check it, 14 minus 8 is in fact 6. All right, so I have an n minus 7 equals negative 4. So the opposite of subtracting 7 is to add 7. And if I add it to the left side of the equation, remember I have to keep my equation balanced, I have to add it to the right side as well. I need to show both of those. So under each one of my constants, I show my plus 7's, and those cancel out, and I have left n equaling positive 3. Over here, here's my variable. I have an x minus 6. So to undo minus 6, I add 6. And if I add it to the left, or to the right side of my equation, I also have to add it onto the 6. So I need to show that I'm adding 6 on both sides. And 9 plus 6 makes 15. And over here I have an x. So x equals 15. 15 minus 6 does make 9. Let's try 2 more. So here's my n, my variable. It has a minus 3 with it. So to undo a minus 3, I add 3. And under the minus 10, because remember I have to keep it balanced. And over here, my 3's are going to cancel out. And negative 10 plus 3 makes negative 7. And I find my variable on the last one. My variable is over here on the right. It's my m. It has with it a minus 12. So to undo minus 12, I add 12. And I add 12 to both sides. So negative 5 plus 12 equals 7. So m equals 7. If I plug that back in, 7 minus 12 does equal negative 5. So your assignment, and what you're supposed to bring in for class tomorrow, you need to write down and solve each one of these 4 questions. If you want a challenge, you can try these 2 that are down here on the bottom. They're a little bit harder. You don't have to do them. But if you want a challenge, you can try these, the bottom 2. But these 4 are the 4 that you need to write down and do as your assignment. When you need to bring it into class, it should show your work. So they should look like these. I should see either pluses or minuses and what number you're adding on to both sides. Remember, each one of these should be equal, so you should be able to put an equal sign in between and show your solution. So when you come into class tomorrow, these are the 4 questions that you should have solved on a piece of paper. So write the equation down, show me how you solved it, and give me your final solution.